Alright, so hello, zdravstvujte, dobrý deň. Let me welcome you to our talk, which we name Making Your Application Behave Using Selenium and Applitools. My name is Michal Vaněk, Michael, whatever you call me, Misha. I do come from Avast Software. I am a lead QA engineer and engineering manager. There I am a big fan of test automation. I do specialize in a release process and making this process smooth and with speeding up the delivery of our solutions. This is my colleague Luboš. Luboš is our core QA engineer. He specializes in generally software testing area. He is a really big fan of automation and also big critic of wrong automation. I mentioned we do come from Avast. Avast is a security company based in Prague, Czech Republic, where there is our headquarters. But we are not only Czech company anymore, unfortunately. We do have a couple branches all over the world. I'm not sure if there is any branch in Russia, in a small office. We do have branches in United States, Japan, Germany. We specialize in a security product. In our portfolio, there is mostly antiviruses on our platform, but we do have also another security applications like VPN providers. We do have a cleanup tool, and also for the last 2 years we do have a password manager. 2 years ago, there appeared a very interesting situation in our company. We acquired our biggest competitor, which was AVG Technologies. It was a very rough situation for everyone there. Basically, AVG was also a Czech company, but they were much bigger than us. Those times we were about 800 employees. In AVG they were about 2,000 and more employees. So this merge was very rough, but I can say that after 2 years of working together, we succeeded. Together, we do have about 400 million users out there, and in Russia, there is more than 70 millions of users. Okay, it's after lunch, so let me wake you a little bit up. Who is using AVG here? Okay. And who is using Avast? Yeah, that's good. Thank you. What is going to be today about? I will give you the introduction of our situation, how we started the department, and why we did decisions as what we did. Then I will bypass my word to Luboš, and he will tell you what we do in the area of the UI testing, where do we use technologies like Selenium WebDriver, Behave, Applitools, and maybe we'll dig into some debugging. Please use Slido, ask us some questions so we can answer them. Testing department in Avast was established 7 years ago. We established it in a traditional way. Yeah. So there was development department, then we established QA testing department, and we started like testing software in the end of the phase of the development. After some time, as the market was changing, the whole world was changing, we realized that okay, this was the past, but we need to change it somehow. Yeah. So we transferred the department that some QA engineers, they are also part of the development team. So they are not a part only from a single QA team. But we still do have some QA engineers who are in independent QA department. The way how we work can be divided in 2 ways. For new features, we use exploratory testing approach. And for test automation and for regressions, we mostly prefer test automation. Also, we do some regressions, but the most preferred way is the test automation. I forgot to mention one thing. It's from this slide, yeah. Because that background for us is a symbolic, yeah. If you look on it, it's a boat which is on a very, very rough sea, yeah. The waves, who are very rough, sometimes are very higher than a boat, are the comets who are doing around the branches, yeah. Like the developers, they just like committing something. And our goal is to deliver a software, like deliver a cargo to the destination safely and in a good quality. That's why we are also doing in our department one thing, that QA engineers are also, or QA department is also responsible for the product delivery. This is something what I hear is not very common in our area, that like QA guys are managing the process. It appeared from a historical reason. When we started the department, there was no one in Avast who was generally managing the release. And then we realized, okay, that we know the QA engineers, they know the product from the beginnings till the end. They also understand the business, what is behind. So then we realized that it's smart that people from QA department are managing the release. In our department, we do test Windows antivirus product. Our product is mostly focused on end users. I mentioned that 2 years ago we acquired our competitor AVG. Those were rough times, but generally we ended with one AV with just 2 UIs. I heard couple stories that people were complaining, okay, I was having AVG, it wasn't working, then I installed Avast and it works perfectly. Well, yeah, we are glad for it. And there was opposite stories. I was having Avast, it was crap, and then I installed AVG, oh my god, it's perfectly antivirus. Well, it's still the same, yeah. There is one core layer, which is written in C++, and there is a UI layer, which is also written in C++ and using Chrome MDN framework technology, which enables us to work as a normal web page. For our test automation infrastructure, we are using mostly open source tools. It's because of history. When we got into the company, there was no QA department, we got no budget. So we need to show our value, that we are valuable for a company, that the company is not wasting money. So we started to preparing our test environment from scratch. From my previous job, I was working for Sun Microsystems. We used VirtualBox there, so we started using VirtualBox as a virtualization platform. And then as a test executor, we started to use Jenkins, also because of Sun. Our tests are mostly written in Python. The core tests, which are testing the core part of the antivirus, are using Boost framework, which enables us to connect with the antivirus service without UI. How do we test? What is our pipeline there? There was in a first presentation that QA engineers are becoming part of DevOps. So this is the approach what we are trying to do. We are using Git, and for those who are familiar with Git, okay, who is familiar with Git here? Someone with Mercurial? So, but you understand the basics of Git branching. All right, so I try to do this quickly. Like, Git is the system for storage of code, and when there are changes, so in Git you create a separate branch where you do the changes and then you do merges. Git is popular because it allows easy work with branches, and on all these branches we run our written test. With these tests, we just want to make sure that the application is stable and installable. Antivirus has drivers, and drivers have the problems that they tend to fail and go to blue screen. Yeah, and the worst thing what can happen to you is that when you install the new version, you end in a never-ending blue screening loop, and it takes a couple hours to get from this situation. So this is a small portion of tests which we run for every branch just to make sure that the product works and is installable. Then for another branches, we do have a medium suite. This is a suite of tests which verifies the functionality a little bit more complex. They dig in a little bit more deeper. They are not just saying, okay, product works, but they are just saying the part of the products they behaves at least somehow correct as we expect them. And then every night or every morning we ran a long suite of tests which are digging into the functionality. They are testing so many scenarios. The problems with this test is that they are flaky. Yeah, the more often we run them, the more we discover that okay, they are not behave 100% correctly in 10 scenarios if I run them on a same build. We run these tests at least daily, at least in the morning. But if it's necessary, it's possible to run these tests on the request. Generally, we are trying to make these tests to be very fast. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are lots of versions of Windows, so we are testing many combinations. For now, we have optimized that we are testing 4 different versions of Windows, from Windows XP till Windows 10 RS5, which is in an inside channel. And it takes us lots of resources. When there comes to release, we use exploratory testing approach to check if the application works somehow. Yeah. It was mentioned in a first lecture. Yeah, that there are automation checks which are just checking the changes if there are no changes. But without doing any exploratory check, it's hard to see if there are any other different scenarios, different things which are happening to company. For our before our releases, we do beta sessions, beta testing. Together, we do have more than 250,000 beta users in our community. What we are really glad for is the evangelist group which we have, because these evangelists, they are doing lots of stuff for us. They are fans of the security. They are trying our products in a crazy situations, and then they report us the feedback. We created internal Slack channel for them, so they can directly talk to us, and the information from them are very valuable. Also, why this beta community is very valuable for us is the power of the number of users and the data they can send to us anonymously. Because the number of users of antiviruses on Windows platform is more than 200 million. And these are end users. They are not servers which are under control. These are different combinations. So we tend to have the product maximum stable. The biggest problem for us are the crashes. If there is a possible way for malware to crash the product, then the user is unprotected. So for the beta community, we use the power of them. They send us the crashes, we fix the most worst ones, the most accurate ones, and then we do release. I would need some small help from you, yeah. Like 2 years ago, when we acquired AVG, it was a very rough time for us. Because in Avast, we were punk. In AVG, they used a lot agile, and the full company was very, very agile. And these two cultures, they just clashed. People in Avast, especially in the Windows department, they do not like to be here that there is agile. After 2 years, we are friends, we are colleagues, I think that we are creating very, very good products. Nothing wrong is there. But still the word agile is not allowed to be said in our offices. I think we are agile. Because the way how we work is that we do have 5 weeks release cycle. At the beginning of the release cycle, we create a build, we create a branch, Then we put their features, we stabilize the branch, we do weekly betas, that's what's very important for us, and then we do a release channel. So I think we are agile, right? Now it's time for me to give a word to Luboš and dig into Behave, Selenium, and all the magic.
Read a little bit of our application, how it's being built. It's based on the Chromium embedded framework. In short, it's CEF. And our backend part of the UI and service is written in C++. The front-end part is written in JavaScript. And why you see there why you see the little foxes there is that these repositories, or the C++ and JavaScript separated repositories. There's a reason for that. We can release the JavaScript part as often as we can, or when there is some feature finished. Also, the top part, where you see the plugin Applitools, Selenium and Behave, that's our test framework. We use these frameworks and tools to help us with tests. Also, it's in separated repository because we need to run these tests when there are builds in C++, and also there is a release of JavaScript part. So, and here you can see that the application is basically HTML application. It's single page app, and what it does is that it communicates via JavaScript calls with the C++ layer. It's not typical web page where you would expect that there is some HTTP communication. It's done via JavaScript. The HTTP could be interrupted in our case by firewall or our services. So that's where we come with the JavaScript part, and all these JavaScript calls are implemented in C++. Also, this serves us as a great link. We do every call which is being sent from C++ or JavaScript part, and we can also use these logs in automation and analyze whether there are some errors. That would be in red, but there is no error here, unfortunately. Also, we can analyze the speed of the application. You can see that it takes some time to load it, and that's just for imagination, that you can do within the application the same thing you would be able to do in Firefox or Chrome. Actually, our UI can be used or run in a normal browser, but the service layer is being mocked, and that's how our UI or the front-end developers are developing the UI. Here, Michal was talking about releases. In UI, we can release almost like many times a day if we need it. You can see that we can specify what version of what module we want to release. On the right, that's the output of it. It's some JSON file where it's some URL with the version. Down on the right, you can see that we can say that, for example, for beta, we can release a new control file, and a beta client will then download all the UI, and it's beta users can complain to us that there are some problems if there are. Down here you can see the table, which is from Jenkins. You can see that it's red and yellow. That's because our tests are flaky. It's especially flaky because the operating system and it's a Windows app. It's not because of tests itself are flaky, but the systems are. Because there are opening windows which we don't expect to be there, or some random updates we don't expect, and so on. So as I said, our application is a web-based app, so we can really use the same tools as you would use for web automation in normal browser. Selenium. Anyone here know Selenium? That's great. So it'll be quite boring for you. But what's interesting here is the way how we are using it, because we are not letting the WebDriver running the browser. Instead of that, we are running our UI with the parameter remote debugging port and some port, and then we are passing this to the options and debugger address and passing it to the WebDriver Chrome. You can see it here, and that's what the Chrome driver uses. You the same stuff as you would be able to do with normal Selenium in a normal browser. For our code structure, we decided to use page objects, element objects. That's really like simple stuff. When you want to make some change, it's just made on one place, and that's it. I will show later one image how our UI looks like, especially this shields page. There are 4 switches, and doing that we are just saying that the shields page has a few switches, and we are instantiating here the object element switch. The element switch has 2 functions: toggle, which is just clicking and checking whether it's being enabled, because we are disabling the button in a time when it's communicating with the service, and the is selected is just for getting information whether the shield is turned off or on. Also, we are antivirus, so sometimes we have to display you some dialog where is information that we caught some virus, like you download, I don't know, some fake application, and it wants to make something bad to your computer, so we display a dialog, and it says, or how we are dealing with this is that we are using, or we are getting the window handles from Selenium, which is by default there. Do this also when you have the website with the iframes, and you can switch between the windows or between the iframes. And then you can manipulate or get information from within the window or the iframe. And what we are doing here is just switch to the dialog and back switch to the main window. The last thing in Selenium, what we did is, or not in Selenium, but we created main UI or main window object where we are gathering all the page objects we have available in a UI. So that means that I can call any function from any page at any time. I can call UI anti-spam stop while being on other page. That would cause to trigger some exception, but that's how we decided to build it. Okay, and now I will show you how we decided to write our tests. Anyone heard about Behave or Cucumber? Using it? Cool. Oh, I will tell you more because it wasn't that many people. So Behave is a BDD tool. BDD means behavior-driven development. It could be also with acceptance test-driven development, but we are not really doing behavior-driven development. We are just using it for documenting our test scenarios or the test cases. Also, we are the only users of this tool because our developers and product owners just don't want to mess with this. Actually, it's quite sad. And behave needs 3 types of files to be able to run. It's features and these steps definitions, which must be in a steps folder. Then optionally you can have their environment file where you can hook into the test execution. You can see here that there are 2 different folders because our UI in AVG and Avast are totally different, so we had to write different test scenarios for them. Here down you can see how the tests are run. We can specify some tags, some variables from the CI. We are saying that we want some XML output and what version do we want to run. And this is how the test looks like. It's a simple text file with a few keywords which you need to have inside. It's a feature and it's a scenario, and then inside the scenario you have to have given when and then steps keywords. The background keyword is being executed when, or it's good to have it when you have more scenarios in one feature file, and then the background is being executed before every scenario. This scenario outline means that these steps or this scenario will be generated 4 times based on the table below. So yeah, and it replaces the shield with the text from the table. And this is how it looks like. It's being this recording of the text execution, and these are the shields or the switches I was talking about a few times before. Yeah. So it takes some time, and that's what you would expect from the UI test. And the actual actions which are being done in the application or in the test are the given when then keywords. You have to implement them by this function, the step implementation, and decorate it by step given when then keyword. And inside of the decorator, you have to specify the exact state of the step you have in a feature file, or you can make some or extract some variables which you can use later in the step implementation. Here you can see that we are where we are using Selenium. So Selenium is just for manipulating, and here we are doing the real test, I would say. Also, the test without assertion wouldn't be test, so assert. Here we are using PyHunkrest framework for it because it's quite nice to read. And the last thing, as I said, is optional for behave, and it's well, if you are running unit tests, you have setup and teardown methods, and this is the like the variation in behave, like before feature, before scenario. It's called before these keywords you can see in a feature file. Before all is just called right at the beginning of the test. We are using, for example, before feature for starting the UI. We are not exiting the application after every test. We want to have it like a little longer. And the last thing I'll be talking about is Applitools. Anyone knows what's Applitools? Cool. It's not many, but I can say that it's a great app. It's AI-powered cloud application where you can send your screenshots and it tells regressions. For example, this one. I was talking about the detection dialog, and this is what Applitools spotted. You can see here that it detected change in the close button and some change in the flow of the buttons inside. That's something what you would definitely spot. But I don't think anyone here could spot this change in the close. Also, there are some other differences like the URL and the thread name, and that's ignore regions where it doesn't like fail your tests in this case. and how it's being used. At the beginning, when you run it for first time, you have to accept all the images and say, okay, this is the state of the application. I want to have it in the future. And then when you run your test again and again with Applitools, and there is some change, it shows you in, well, you can see it even in continuous integration server, and then you have to decide whether this change is something you want or not. So you can just put the thumbs up or thumbs down, and that's how you change the baseline of the image, and in the next round would be accepted as the correct one. Also, as I know, you can create bug regions there, but we are not using it till now. And how we added it this to our automation framework. It's like, I would say 10 to 15 or 20 lines of code, and it could be definitely less. And what you have to do, instance of the driver inside the Eyes open function, and this return, you have to return it to the instance of the driver. And that's it. You set up the environment for is being done here. You can see that it's Eyes check window method, and that's where the screenshot is being sent to the server, and when it's being compared. We decided to put it into the after step. So whenever you have in your test given when or then step, it's being taken and sent to the server. What we decided to do here is that sometimes the screenshots were the same and we were wasting money on it because it costs money to send the screenshots there. And we are not sending it when the screen is the same as in the previous step. We are storing it in the context, and this is well, just taking the screenshot from Selenium. It's easy. And we also made the Eyes closed decorator, which we can use in the, or we can decorate the step implementation function, and that means that this step shouldn't be sent to the Applitools too. So, and that's it from me. I will pass my word to Michal again. So, thanks.
Luboš was a little bit faster than we expected. Yeah. So it's this approach with Behave and BDD helped us to solve one situation. I always prefer to write the code than to do documentation. And then we had a lot of discussions. Okay, you are having lots of tests, so what these tests are doing. And I was okay, I was just, they are testing the main part of the functionality. I knew it's the core, but I didn't have it written. And when I asked guys, okay guys, please can you write some documentation? So they said, yes we can, but we don't want to. With Behave, it's some kind of a natural, yeah, that you write a Behave test file, and then it's a documentation. And and if you write it in a nice way, then you might get into a situation that everyone from the another developer to CEO can see what the test is doing. But really, big improvement was implementing Eyes here. I am a big fan of automation, and I am lazy. Generally, I don't like to do the same stuff all the time, and even I know that the product was tested a couple times, so when it comes to in a last release phase and there is last final check, there might appear some issues sometimes. With Applitools, we got into a situation that we have another pair of eyes who are doing the job for us, that they are looking it through their eyes. And from my view as a release manager, I am not worried to do a release, especially to beta channels, without anyone touched it. When we do public releases, it's for the amount of lots of users. We still use normalize, we still just do very short check. But for beta releases in the final phases, We just create a build, put it to the testing pipeline. That was the short, medium, long, and thanks to Applitools, we don't have to test it manually, and it goes out. Maybe the last question. This is Luboš's favorite statement, and we'd like to tell you here a little bit. From our experience, we found lots of tools, but these tools were sometimes much more powerful than we needed. These were tools typically from the big companies which were selling big products, but unfortunately what we wanted was hidden in a small percentage of the big tool. So this is our experience, that do not rely too much on tools, just use them wisely. Thank you. The first question. Thank you for questions. Luboš.
I will respond.
Who writes these testing scenarios? Separate testing department or devs?
Testers. As I said, our feature files are just documentation for us, and we sadly don't cooperate with anyone. I would be happy to cooperate with product owners, but they just don't want. So,
Second one. Do you use core antivirus originally used in Avast or AVG? It's Avast, but not full of them. In AVG, they had a great technology which was called IDP, and we integrated this technology into Avast. Yeah. Like generally, the acquisition part is not easy. It's a rough situation, yeah, because you have two products which are doing completely the same, and you are doing acquisition because you need to save money, because you want to earn more money. And it means that you need to get from two products into one product. And the decisions behind this are very rough, because when you are telling to one group, okay, we are taking your part of code, then these people are happy because they feel, okay, we are the winners. But you are also the losers who are saying, okay, we are on the second part, so what shall we do? Those are rough times. The new Avast and new AVG is based on the core of Avast with some components originally developed in AVG.
The next question is Applitools Eyes was available for offline usage without sending this component in screenshots? I think it is, and you have to ask them. And the last question down is, so if I would install Selenium and would create for a few test cases, by that I could automate some Windows software. Yes, again, you can automate even Windows with Selenium, Windows 10 definitely. And I totally know that CCleaner, that's one of our companies too, they're using Selenium for automating Windows 7 application, yes. Yes. Well, it's Aquila, right? Okay, any more questions?
Hi, I'm Masu from the last company. So generally speaking, how many tests again, and how long does it take to run all of them on all of the operating systems?
Okay. So in UI test, there's around 200 test scenarios, and it takes around 40 minutes to run everywhere, because
14 or 14?
40.
40.
40, yes. It's slow. But
so that means that you perhaps excluding this pipeline from the release, right?
yes, exactly.
And for the rest of the non-UI checks, there is more than 2,000 scenarios, and the amount of time, it depends how much overloaded is the infrastructure. Right now we are on amount from 1 hour to 2 hours to run them all, but I want it to be faster. I want it to be less than 30 minutes. Yeah.
Another question, all right?
So, what's the question?
I have one more question.
Yes.
Do you check your UI with Applitools with different screen scaling APIs and different structures with it? Thanks.
I know it's possible, but we are not doing it. Because the application should be responsive, but yes, of course, it should be, but we are not doing it. Another question?
Thanks for one more question. You said something about your test lab and how maybe your environment and how you control your environment. I understand that it's not a topic of presentation, but maybe some sort of
We do have QA ops automation team, but maybe what do you mean? How do we control? Our environment consists of Linux servers. We do have more than 10 servers which are running, I don't know actually right now. And on these servers there is running VirtualBox as a host. And on this VirtualBox there is more than 14 Windows guests. And for executing the test we are using Jenkins, which is controlling all the stuff here. So the Jenkins is using Jenkins. We are turning on the machines, installing Avast or AVG, run a test remotely on those computers, then get the results and displaying the results on Jenkins. Yeah. And also in Jenkins there is a job which is called Avast Long Test Runner, and this long test runner runs all the suites for all the components. And this is how it works. Generally, it's much more complicated. Yeah, there is lots of work behind that. But basically, because I live in the infrastructure for more than 7 years, so for me it's easy. I would say, turn it off, install, whatever. But there is lots of work behind it.
Question on my side.
Yeah.
In early days, how was it?
Pardon?
How was it built in early days, this testing? Do you know?
Before 7 years ago,
Yes, at the start. How was it tested?
tested by developers and tested by users. It's like, like I joined Avast. I joined Avast when there was about 80 employees, and in Avast there was more than 100 million users. The number of developers was like 20 developers together. So it was a very, very small team, But also the AV was also very small. But they have realized that where there is a will, there is a way. So they had no one to test, so the developers were just doing better work, using the beta community. They got a feedback from them, and then they did the releases.
Please continue, but before moving towards Jenkins, was there something else in the middle?
No, nothing.
It's above.
Yeah, it was completely punk, tested on users, and then it was a small process, slow process. I mentioned that we need to show the value for the company. So we were not allowed to buy expensive tools, to spend millions of dollars for the environment. So we are taking small steps and discovering the wrong paths, and this is where we ended. Like we have a huge infrastructure, which is handling hundreds of virtual machines in one time, and we are continuously improving that. I mentioned that I'm very nervous about the time, so I prefer to have the results almost immediately. So right now we are about the time from 1 hour to 2 hours to get our results, but I want it faster. So there is always way to improvement.
Time is up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.